we can't hear you. I'm keen if you've got some questions for you to be able to ask the questions while we were in. So yeah. Perhaps if you have questions, you can pop them in the chat panel. So yeah. Okay, so my name's Natika or Teak, and this is Paul, who's our ASCCA CEO, and I'm the lead digital mentor through the Be Connected program. And today we're just going to be talking. The video is going to be recorded and will be put on our YouTube channel. So if you don't want your video on there, that's fine. But we'd love for you to stay online and ask some questions if you have any. So today we're talking about connections, and Paul and I are just going to have a general chat about connectivity and understanding connectivity. My cat joined. She's decided that it's time for me to not be at the desk anymore, and it's only early in the day. So what I'm hoping to do today is to give you a whole bunch of resources. I will be putting some links in the chat panel as well, because we've got some seniors only internet connections, and I want to be able to encourage people and clubs to go back and get people to work on checking their connections. And because it's something that when we initially got phone connections back in the day, it was a plug it in, use it, and Telstra would send you a new phone every now and then, wouldn't they, when they had changes of technology. These days, it's very, very different. It's kind of tricky to navigate what kind of connection you have and what kind of net connection you need, and there's so many different options, and sometimes those options depend on where you live. And so I live regional and remote, and a lot of support has gone in through a consumer advocacy group. And Christy was going to be joining us today to talk, but unfortunately her father has had to be taken off in an ambulance this morning, so she hasn't been able to join us. I apologise for that. Hopefully he is on the mend sooner rather than later. So Christy has done a lot of work, and she sits on a number of boards reporting back to government, particularly around regional, rural and remote connectivity or lack thereof. And there's some amazing resources on there for anyone who wants to be able to go through and check their NBN connections, etc. And in exciting news, NBN Co just announced that they have upped everyone's speeds for fibre to the premise connections recently without any extra cost. So, Paul, what sort of connection have you got at home?
It's not fibre, it's fibre to the curb.
No.
No, yeah. So yeah. So we we've had I mean, our speeds have been good. We're on a good plan because we both my wife and I work from home, so we needed to make sure we had strong, stable connection. We're on Zoom calls quite a bit.
Yeah.
But what we have is one of those nodes. They're in the ground, and each time we get a lot of rain and they flood, and it happens, I know, around Sydney quite a bit. It can cause havoc, and you need to get them out to clean it up and fix it. So yeah.
So anyone that was on the 100 down and 20 up plans automatically went to 500 down and 50 up on those fibre to the premise plans. Should have, depending on your provider. So the NBN Co is not a retail provider, they are the wholesaler. And so they provide the service to companies like Telstra and Optus and Aussie Broadband and all of the others. So basically the roadmap to choose a connection type depends very heavily on where you live. And what I might do is just share the page here. So you can see this is the NBN's page, and this will help. So you can see that, yes? You can see my screen share? Yep, okay. So on here, you just type in your address. Street, Mosman Park, WA. There we go. I know that is a residential address because that used to be my grandparents' house a million years ago. So they have got access to, they can go to a provider. So for example, if we were to go to Aussie Broadband, we would go in and put in Mosman Park. So this is Aussie Broadband. This is my provider, and I really like them and their service. So if I check on here, it tells me what kind of connection I can have. So ready to connect, and it has a hybrid fibre coaxial. So that's one I've not seen before. So that's interesting, but it tells you what kind of connection you can get. So if I was to put in there 27 Martin Road in 27 Martin. I'm just making up random streets. Martin Road, and I think I'm going to go Spencer Park. Oh, these are all places, towns that I know of. So this one has fibre to the node, but it's not telling me that it's eligible for the upgrade. So it can just have the basic, the value, or the fast connections. Those are the popular ones. Those are the speeds that it's capped at for that particular type of connection. Now, if I was to go to, say, 34 France, oops. Oh, there we go. There's one that's popped up. So we'll go there. So this one, it tells me ready to connect, and it is fibre to the premises. So this is telling me what kind of connection. So you could put your address in here and it will tell you exactly what connection you have got at that particular address. So that's really, really useful. So I actually do have fibre to the premise, and I have upped to the 500, so I can check my speed. Have you checked your speed, Gabrielle? Yes or no? Yeah. Okay, so you're aware of speed tests. So speed test is the easiest one for me. So I can see that my connection is Aussie Broadband, and it's coming through the Telstra exchange. I click on go, and this should give me an accurate, I mean, keeping in mind that I've got a video link happening at the moment.
Oh my
So
goodness.
that's pretty good. I'm
That's
getting the
very good.
500, almost 500 that I'm paying for. So yeah, happy days. I did have in my, I've just moved here, and formerly I had the 1,000 down, 40 up, which was before the speed boost with NBN, and I was getting 800 or 900, which was really great. But it also depends on the connections that are inside your property. So I have done a bit of work with my provider over the years when I first got connected from an old provider to this new one, and they helped me optimize my connection. So that was really useful. If you've got people, are you part of a club, Gabrielle, or you're just, yes, you are. Okay. So are you one of the volunteers at the club? No? Okay. But you're going to take this back to the club and excellent. Yes. So the Be Connected resources, there's lots of information here. I'm just in the browse content on the Be Connected site that's put together by Office of eSafety. These resources are open for anyone to use at any time. There's no charge or anything, and they're developed by the Office of eSafety in conjunction with all of the network partners that have signed up to participate in Be Connected. So it's a great chance if you're part of that network partnership to feed back into what's needed if you're hearing that on the ground. So you can see I've just searched for internet connection in here. There's podcasts, there's courses, etc. And I've clicked on a few of those earlier. So there's one there. What is home data versus mobile data? Because a lot of the work I do in regional areas is talking to people about redundancies. So if you have a fibre connection into the house, fantastic. But what happens when that's down? can you still make phone calls? Can you, do you have a second type of connection? Because these days you don't, like we used to just have the home phone, and even when the power went out, that still worked, didn't it? Unless you had a portable one, which you were fancy in the
Yeah.
later times. But nowadays, if the power goes out, is your internet connection still going? Have you got low mobile signal? Does your mobile work inside the house without your internet? So how do you make sure that you've got something that who's still got landlines? I don't anymore. I haven't had for quite.
No, they my parents were on a landline because they're not, they're in the 90s, right? So they lost their landline because of the conversion to NBN, and they were on
Right.
a monthly plan of $30, which got them international calls to the relatives in Greece and what have you. And now they're paying $60, $70 without the international call fees, which are over and above, and the plans keep changing on them. So we signed up to a Telstra plan, which gave them considerable international call credit, and that within a month it got cut, and that became a $20 fee per month with limits on top of the 70 or whatever they're paying. So it has been quite difficult, and it needs constant
Oversight and review,
and it needs constant tech help from their tech IT provider, which is me. So like, they've got a mobile and they'll call me and they're saying, "Oh, the phone's not working," and we have this game we play where I say, "Just unplug the wires and put them back in." No, this is it. This time they've ruined it, and then Mum in the background goes and does it, and it works again. So it's but it's a constant issue, which it never happened before with, as you say, was a lot more stable with the copper wires and what have you. I mean, I understand why we've moved to an NBN and all that, but it like a lot of things, and like a lot of tech issues that impact our community, it's not thought through carefully. Alternatives aren't considered. And there is a conference right now in Adelaide about all this, and that is, it's not just our group, but there's other vulnerable groups as well that are sort of left behind in this rush to do these things. So
and I think that's a part that clubs can play too, in that the way to make international calls has changed. So if you are using a voice over IP service, what's the impact on that? I haven't even used one of those, so I can't speak to that to any length. However, I know that if you've got a mobile plan, you can use apps like WhatsApp to call and use data instead of an actual phone call. But again, that relies on having solid data, doesn't it? So interestingly enough, Christy and I have been chatting in the week while I've been prepping for this, and there's an organised. I do want to share with you some of the resources that BIRRR have put together, because whilst their focus is regional, rural, and remote, there are some great resources in there about choosing an FTTP plan, choosing an NBN plan in general, looking at the equipment that you're using in the house. So sometimes that might be a little bit different for regional and rural and remote people as to what it is for metro heavily populated areas, but the basics are there, and it's an amazing resource being put together by these wonderful volunteers who are passionate community advocates, communications advocates for people in the bush. So this is their website that has the how to choose a provider, plan and equipment. And so you can see that they've got some lovely graphics in there to show you exactly how the NBN connection works, because whilst the majority of the country is already on an NBN connection of some sort, there are still sections and pockets, even in the built up areas, that are not quite onto the NBN yet. And this new speed increase has been really, really good as well. So there's a lot of text in there, but this is this is a really useful resource for anyone, and they're talking about how to choose a fibre to the premise provider, because as they say, where's the other link that I have from them? Not all providers are equal. So in here, this is their guide on getting an NBN connection. Not all providers offer the same experience. So there's a bunch of downloadable resources here, and it's been put together in a really nice, simple graphic. And they've tried to break it down to be as simple and straightforward as it can be, using clear, plain language, so that you don't have to be a network engineer to get your home connected to the internet. So, which is kind of the way it was heading for a little while. So it talks about choosing your plan. So a lot of people don't understand what kind of connection they've got. A lot of people don't understand the difference in the speeds that they have. So, and a lot of the seniors only plans, so for example, my friends at Aussie Broadband, they have a seniors only plans, a set of seniors plans, but the focus is on the voice services because the speeds are very, very slow. So 12 down, 1 up. That's not really great for anything much. It's certainly not good enough for video calls, and definitely not for more than one video call at a time in a property. So basically, there's a little bit of data, or there's unlimited data depending on how much. And again, you can see the cost in that. There's cost for calls as well until you go to the $60 a month. However, on saying that, Christy sent me a link the other day. There's a new plan that has just launched from a company called Oz Internet. Now I can't find them. Oh, here we go. Which is an Internet for Seniors, NBN and Home Phone Bundle. This has just launched this in the last week. So it's Oz Internet. Can you see that?
OZ?
No, AUS. Hang on, let me just get that thing out of the way so I can see what I'm talking about. So ozinternet.com. I'm going to pop that in the chat panel for you. Now, this is a $60 a month all-inclusive plan, unmetered internet with a 25 down and a 5 up speed, and unlimited home phone calls, local and national, and to mobiles. So they have to sign up for a minimum of 12 months, but this is an NBN standard. There's a home standard VoIP service in there, and you can buy the router up front for $60. So again, that's the lower end of the speed scale, but it's not the bottom. So that would be really good for a little bit of streaming, if you're watching Netflix or so forth. I've just moved to a town where there's very limited terrestrial TV signal, so all of our TV's online. Thankfully, I've got fibre to the premise, so that's all good. But going back to the resources that Christy's shared with us, this is the guide to how you can sort of choose something that might work for you. And she gave me a great idea the other day about how to speak about the speeds. So if you've got people who are not sure on speeds, think of it as a kettle. Think of your internet connection as a kettle. So if you've got NBN 25, which is that seniors plan that we just looked at, is a standard 4-cup kettle. It's enough for most people in the house, so to browse, stream and video call without having to wait for the buffering and so forth. But the NBN 50 is a large quick boil kettle, is what she said. So ideal if you've got more than one person online at the same time, and if you regularly do things like video chats with the grandkids, stream shows, or back up the photos to the cloud, etc., that's probably a better one to go for. So the 25 is okay for the standard 2 people at home, a little bit of browsing, a video call here and there, and maybe a little bit of streaming on the telly. But it also, it's also worth encouraging people to check their connections in the house, how you're sharing it. If your router hasn't been updated since you first connected to the NBN some years ago, it's probably worth having a look at it and seeing whether a newer one's worth an upgrade, because that might increase the speed. And then if you're somebody like me who loves all the smart home things, then you've got lots of things connecting. So I've just paused the vacuum cleaner because she's off cleaning the floors while I'm on this call. So I've got the vacuum cleaner, I've got the video doorbell, we've got the TV on there, we've got some smart lights that come on and I can dim them, and it creates a nicer way to wake up. It's lighter dimmer in the morning, and then it gets brighter. What else have we got? We've got smart speakers around the house so we can have music and just talk to it. So there's all of these smart home things in there. And that was causing me grief with the buffering on the TV initially. So I've been advised to go for a Wi-Fi mesh system inside the house. So, and we did have a very large house in our former house, and it was all steel framed. So that's another consideration to keep in mind. If you've got thick brick walls, which I see you have behind you, Gabrielle, that can also be a barrier to the signal getting through. So the mesh network, the mesh Wi-Fi, they're the newer ones, and they're great for multiple devices on your home network. So even if you've just got a video doorbell, a couple of smartphones in the house connecting, the TV, your iPads and so forth, it doesn't take long to add Internet of Things items up. So even my folks who, they love their iPads, they've both got an iPad each, they've both got an iPhone each. They don't really use the desktop computer anymore, but they also have their TV connected to the internet. And that's probably about all they've got, but that's still half a dozen things on one connection. So the mesh network, that's my next job when I go and visit, is to see whether they're up for getting that mesh network. Quite often you can buy a single mesh router, or you can buy it in a bundle, and a lot of your providers will ship for you. So you saw the Oz Internet one that had a free one to go with it as well. So especially if we're talking households that have, so I have a smartwatch that tells if I trip over. My previous house had stairs, and I worked upstairs, and I don't know if you saw that little ginger tail that walked past before. Her and her bigger brother, the dog, would often race me up or down the stairs. So I was petrified that I was going to trip over one of them going up the stairs or down the stairs. And I'm at home by myself all day until my partner comes home from work. So my watch has got fall detection, and the Wi-Fi in the house, make sure that that's connected so that if I did have a fall, it would call 000, etc., etc. So when we're talking older people and maybe medic alerts and other safety features that they might have that might be internet reliant, the mesh system's probably a really good thing to consider for older people to upgrade. And look, I know it's a painful thing. If you've got something and it's working, why would I throw it out and buy a new one? And I know that's a concern. Like Paul said, the concern is the affordability of all these things, and how can we afford to keep up with this. There is lots being done in that space research wise, and there's consumer advocates like the BIRRR and ASCCA, etc., keep talking to the powers that be about the fact that connectivity is no longer a nice to have. It's an essential service these days. So yeah. Anything that I've forgotten in that lot, Paul?
No, I was just thinking when you're saying all that, how when we were on the old copper wires for internet ADSL and what have you, we used to notice a dip in performance when all the school kids came home, and then again when all the parents came home from work, the load on the internet was affecting the whole street. And the other thing we used to get affected by was wind. So we have a lot of trees around us. So when it was windy, the performance would cut out and come back and cut out and come back, which I think a lot of that's been fixed now. I thought I had a good internet till I saw your speed. I'm on 99.89 with an upload of 36.54
Yeah,
And yeah, I mean that's pretty good for
that is good.
our
Yeah.
area. But
Well,
yeah,
it's
yeah,
worth doing an annual review of your account.
yeah,
So
yeah,
it's like everything. So when you've signed up for insurances and things like that, add your NBN connection into that as well. Do a
yeah.
review, do a whip around. There are consumer sites. Let me show you. I found a couple of comparison sites. So places like Finder.
Finder, yeah. My son
Yep.
used to work for Finder. Yeah,
Yep. So CanStar have got one. I can put this link in there as well. So
yeah.
CanStar have got compare NBN plans and deals.
The other one
Now you
was Whirlpool. They used to do a lot of the where people put up tech
yes.
issues and they do all
Yep.
sorts of tech type scenario.
So
It's a forum. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah, this is another link that Christy shared with me the other day, was from Whistle Out, but it has got a review of the NBN plans for seniors and pensioners. So this is the analogy of the kettle that's up the top there, and so that's in a single spot where you can filter your NBN 25 or your NBN 50 deals. Now I don't know how long ago that was updated, but that gives it to you all in the one spot. But I did also have, let me just check where it is. Christie's team at BIRRR Beer have also done one of those. So this is their page overview, and it's a really nice way of checking. So you've got your 50/20. This isn't necessarily seniors focused though. This is all of the plans. So you've got the Aussie Broadband 7-day a week support, Aussie base. It starts at 93. The 251, I think these plans have just changed. The 550, because the NBN have upgraded the speeds in the last week. So just check that out. So they've got all of the plans available. This might be the latest one, but I'm not 100% certain. And then the router cost, and you don't have to buy the router from the service provider. You can go and buy your own, but for ease of setup, it's
Yeah,
usually easier to just go
yeah.
straight for that one. So you've got LeapTel, again, Aussie-based support, 7 days a week, closed on public holidays, Buddy Telco, Superloop, and the Telstra stuff. So the red X in the box means that they don't offer that speed tier or that particular, that speed tier and plan. So those are the additions and the inclusions at the end there. And I can send a link to where they have this on their website. So they've done a lot of work to make it as simple and straightforward. Let me just get back to the website where was I? So to make it as simple and straightforward as they can. And keep in mind that when you have your home internet, that doesn't have your mobile plan in that as well. So that's another cost that we all have. And usually we've got one each, maybe in a seniors couple house, you don't have one each. But this came up the other day, $19 a month mobile discount for concession card holders, someone showed me from our friends at Telstra. So
So that's $19 off a plan. Is that what
yep.
was offering? Yeah, yeah.
So 5 gigabytes is $31 a month. No lock-in contract, no excess data charges, unlimited national calls and texts. Enjoy uncapped download speeds. And then there's the critical information. I'll put that in the chat as well if you want to use this. And of course, if you're watching our session on our YouTube channel afterwards because you couldn't make it today, then I will have put all of these links in our blog post that goes out with our e-news at the beginning of October. So keep your eye out for those. What else do I have in here? I had a whole bunch of exciting little things that I found. There's an article in the Be Connected resource library, 12 things you need to know about the NBN. So that might be from 2019, but they're still valid points. So it's definitely worth having a look. if you're looking for low cost mobile plans, someone like Boost Mobile might be the way to go. They work off the Telstra infrastructure. There are a bunch of other providers. So the important part is to check whose infrastructure they work off. Is it Telstra's? Is it Optus's? So that impacts where you can access those signals. For me, I have a dual SIM phone, and they were doing upgrades on our tower last week. And so my main provider was going to be out for the week on and off. So, but it wasn't a problem for me because it switched over to my secondary one. So I just put an annual prepaid SIM, an eSIM in my phone for the secondary number. And that way, if I'm out of range for my primary number, or if the primary number goes down, I can still use that secondary one. So you'd be very unlucky if all three of my connections were out at the same time. So, and I know that there was a big, terrible network upgrade failure across Optus's network in the last week, and that was terrible. So that's also another reason to, if you are an Optus customer, to maybe have a Telstra or a Boost or something that uses different infrastructure, so that if you do need to call 000, because what happened was their firewall update blocked 000 calls on the Optus network, and unfortunately people couldn't call and there were fatalities because of that, etc. So I know that we shouldn't have to, but sometimes it's worth considering having one of you on Optus and one of you on Telstra infrastructure or something like that, or being able to, so devastating, not good at all. So so the annual prepaid failover number that I have is about $1 a day. So for me, it's some days I sit there and I go, oh, do I really need to have it? And then weeks when the internet's on and off and I was out and about and I really needed something, it was, yep, I do need it. So yeah, it was very handy for me. So yeah, I think that's all of my links that I've shared. Is there anything else that you think I've missed, Paul?
No, I don't. I think, I'm still shocked, and I keep hearing stories of areas which don't have NBN still and poor mobile coverage. And there is a concern here in Western Sydney around some black spots, because they're also the areas which are most prone to natural disasters, whether it's bushfires or floods or what have you, and the infrastructure is just quite poor, and there's a lot of effort to try and do something about it, but it's coming from the community at this stage rather than actual, the telephone providers and the telco companies and the NBNs and what have you. I mean, apparently this mobile antennas take about 7 years of planning and research to put up, so if that work hasn't started now, it's a long way in the future before these areas are going to be looked after. But and ASCCA's involved in part of that, helping with that research and helping with that to put together the the business case and the use case to support that. So I'm very happy to be part of that, because these are, what we're learning with digital inclusion is that it's more than digital economy. It is digital society, it's digital culture, it's digital everything. So
it's equality and equity in
exactly.
Community.
Yeah. And we need, it does need a community-based approach to fix it and get as many people as we can participating, because that's not going away.
No, that's right. Yeah, and it's only going to become more critical.
And if you need someone to do a live link presentation to the club, where if Natika's not available, I'm happy to step in and talk to you guys as well. And very happy to do that.
Yeah,
If
excellent.
I had more time, I'd love to come up to Coffs Harbour. It's one of my favourite places. But yeah.
Very good. No, we'd love to have you share that as much as you can. So, and that's the thing. There's so much in it. I think one of the conversations I've had with Christy in the past. It's such a shame that she wasn't able to join us today. But her analogy is like, it's connectivity these days is like you buying a fancy car, but having to understand how to service it yourself, as well as how to troubleshoot if it doesn't start properly. And so there's so many things out there that need our smarts about us, and it's going so quickly that it can be very, very daunting for people who haven't necessarily grown up with technology. So, it's one of those things that we just need to be as supportive as we can, and that's what our clubs are perfect at, is helping people to navigate these changing scenarios.
And I think it's also important to point out the benefits of some of the technology and how it can improve your life.
Absolutely.
Because we tend to focus on issues and troubleshooting issues, but there's so much good that can come out of it as well.
Absolutely. Look, there's a lot of stuff happening in the smart home space as well to help people stay at home longer too. So there's a big, I don't know if the staying in place program's a national one. I haven't been in that space for a bit, but there's a program here rolling out through regional WA at least, called Staying in Place, because obviously it's cheaper for the government to have people stay at home and have the support that they need than to build more aged care facilities. And it's much nicer for them to stay at home as well. So we would love to see any of the contractors that are providing social support. We'd love to see the federal government include digital literacy support as one of the home supports for people, because it is such a big part of everybody's life. These smart home setups would be amazing. I've got it so that my front light comes on inside the house when I come home. It knows when I'm home because my phone comes into the little geofence, and when I leave, it will turn it off. And you can set up sensors so that your family can get alerts that you're moving around the house without them having cameras on you, so it can see that there's motion happening in the house. They don't have to be constantly worried, or it might be that people get busy and they haven't called mum for a couple of days, and all of a sudden, it's been a week and then there's no movement at home. So, those sorts of smart home devices are great. And the, smart watches, so that if you're having a fall, it can call 000 for you, et cetera, et cetera. So there's lots and lots of benefits, I personally think. Paul and I kind of on a different...
No. I don't trust my smart scales. They laugh at me when I get on, and I sit there and I go, "What did I eat last night?" And I know it talks to the fridge, and they both tease me and go. So
how good will that be when the fridge will just do the click and collect order for you?
I actually a long time ago worked on a project with that smart home technology, and one of the issues which I think they've had to work on and iron out was that it wasn't smart enough to tell the difference between, say, someone lying down for a nap on the couch to falling over, and so it was causing a lot of unnecessary false positives and false negatives and all that kind of stuff. But that was always going to be something with time, and the more data it understood, the smarter it was going to get, and hopefully know the difference between the two. But there is. I'll bring my parents up again, and I've been trying to get them to use the safety devices, so they can press those alarm buttons if they're too proud. They don't want them, So there is a bit of that going on too. But I think something like a smartphone is a little bit more easier to put on, and then it has the same impact. But there are some good solutions out there for people who are interested in that as well. There's a company called Opel, and they do phones for seniors and smart devices like that for seniors as well. I think you can get them at your Harvey Normans and your JB Hi-Fis and what have you. So it's they focus on
Excellent.
Lovely. And then, of course, there's all the robotics coming. So there's a lot of robot type to assist with aged care and what have you. All right. Sorry, Gabrielle.
Thank you so much for
Get
your
in touch,
time.
and we'll love to talk to your community as well. Yeah.
Thank you. Bye.